Hi, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to the Winter Speaker Series. I don't know what number we're at, but we're getting through the winter. But I think I've covered everything. Mark, come on up and introduce our speaker tonight. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. We put these on each week, and it's nice to see a big crowd here tonight, and I think maybe that's indicative of the talk that we have tonight. I'd like to introduce our speaker tonight, Luc Lafrance. I met him like 10 years ago, and he's quite a character. He was quite a character back then, and I didn't realize until tonight how short his sailing journey was. I think it's 10 years. He might tell you differently, but I think it's fairly short. When I first met Luc, not knowing him, I think people see other characteristics of other people quite, well, I do anyway. I like, wow, that guy's really, like this. And I think we see things in other people we don't have in ourselves. And what I saw in Luc was just his ability his adventure. He's an adventurer. Like, he's fearless in his adventures. It caused a few problems with our racing career. But other than that, it helped him develop. I think it accelerated his sailing career way faster than mine ever went. I'm sort of more by the book. Am I doing things right? And you'll hear some stories, I think, and some tales from Luc. And he works differently. And I think that's his superpower, is that he's a bit of an adventurer. So Luc, come on up and tell us about your stories, and we're looking forward to your talk.
Good. Well, thank you very much, Mark, for the kind introduction. Thank you, fine people of the Nepean Sail Club, for organizing this. Thank you, all of you, for attending. Anyways, I'm going to share my experiences. Like Mark said, I didn't really, most people in this room are better sailors, I'm sure, than I am, those who sail. And even those who don't sail are probably better than I am. Because, I've been sailing only for about 12, 15 years, maybe, I don't know, on and off, but really seriously for the last 8 years. Anyway, I'm going to share you my why I've been sailing the Great Lakes. Let's move on. In 2015, at the age of 52, I bought my first sailboat. It was a Bayfield 36, and I sailed it to Bayfield, Ontario. That's it. Any questions? Any question? Like, why Bayfield? Why a Bayfield? Maybe, perhaps? No?
Where did you sail it from?
Is it why a Bayfield and why to Bayfield? Well, it's a long story. So just to give you an idea, who has sailed any Great Lakes? Oh, most people. Who has sailed Lake Huron? Oh, man. Well, not you guys, so you don't count. You? Yeah? Okay. Michigan, Superior? Just Huron? Huron is beautiful. Anyways, so yeah, Bayfield on east shore of Lake Huron. In 1986, I was working in Chatham, Ontario. My girlfriend at the time was working in Sarnia. And one of her friends, a colleague from work, invited her, and by association me, to go sail in Bayfield for a weekend. And, I got to work this out.
Which marina?
Bayfield, the village of Bayfield Marina. And this is what it looked like in 86-ish. This is recent, but it didn't look any different. And it also, I got to learn on it. This is what the lake looked like. So I was mesmerized. And this was the water. And Lake Huron. This is not in 86. This is my daughter, Marie-Pierre, who was supposed to come, and her boyfriend taken. But it was exactly like that. Nothing has changed. And this is the little town of Bayfield. The main drag. Very, very quaint. And it's renowned for its sunsets. As a matter of fact, it was in the National Geographic in the 70s edition. I probably can find whoever collects the National Geographics, you'll see the best sunset in the world. And Bayfield, Ontario, not Canada, Bayfield, Ontario was one of the places. So needless to say, I kind of fell in love with the place right off the bat. And when my daughter was old enough, we started vacationing there. And this is the cottage we rented it for 18 years. Every summer, every August, the view from outside, the view from inside, the beach, on the beach. So you get my point. I fell in love with the place. And I got to know everything about Bayfield, including the Bayfield boatyard. And I met the president, Jake Rogerson. He was retired because the Bayfield boatyard started producing some boats in Bayfield. It was just where my boat is anchored today, moored today. Right behind was where the original building where they started making the 23s and in the early 70s, and then the 25s, and then they made 29s, and they had to move. They moved to Clinton, which is down the road, and they made boats. The 36 was the latest one they made, and if you read, they say it's probably their best design, but they all look the same. But the Bayfield was big enough, though the 40 was bigger, but the Bayfield was big enough, and was one of the, and the 40 and the 36 were obviously their best boats. But in 1988, there was an accidental fire, and the manufacturing facilities burned down. Anyways, but I knew everything about Bayfield boats, and I would go and walk the marina and talk to Jake, because he was now selling boats there. And so I said, one day I want to own a Bayfield sailboat, and I want to sail it to Bayfield. So in 2015, when these characters, you may recognize some of them, we went on a sailing trip in the Grenadines. I was just learning how to sail. The better sailors there were not me. Anyways, but I invited my friend Andrew right there, and he on the way, he loved it so much. On the way back, he says, "Luc, let's buy a boat." So oh yeah, because let's buy a boat. I knew exactly what I wanted to buy. So, bang. Sorry, I'm going to say this, but some people suffer a boat porn. You look at night and you just look at boat. I was one of them. I was dreaming of, that's what I would look every night. And I knew exactly every Bayfield 36 for sale where they were. And that one here happened to be in Kingston, Ontario. And that picture was taken about a week after me and my partner bought it in 2015. So that's how it happened. I mean, it was a kind of a story in building, and then everything came together, and then the adventure started. Just like that. I barely knew how to sail, but one thing I knew is I was born and raised on the farm. I knew how to handle machinery, big. So the boat was big and heavy, but it didn't bother me because I drove tractors and wagons and stuff. So that helped me, and off we went. But before I start, my friend Peter always says, and every good captain, crew first, craft, then mission. So I want to maybe do a bit of a shout out because my adventures, I've learned a lot through my adventures, and a lot of it was because I had good crew with me, because otherwise I'd be, either at the bottom of the lake or still on the shore, not sure which. But it first started with my partner Andrew. Again, he had never sailed until we went on that sail trip in the Grenadines. So, but he loved it so much that he said, "Come on, let's buy a boat," and off we went. And thanks to him, he was an instigator, a catalyst for me to own a boat. And he's a great crew. Now, Andrew just had a stroke 6 weeks ago, and he's doing fine. He went through a rough patch, so that's going to give us more incentive to go skiing, sailing this summer. And then, of course, Peter Antonidi. Some of you have seen him around here. It's a bit of a whack job. He's been with me, on many trips. Got a shout out to him. John Pensum, he's a new member here. I thought he would be here tonight. I guess he doesn't care, but he's a great friend, and he's been on many trips with me. Spartacus Penev, I think he's still kind of attached here. I'm not sure, but he's now working from Europe. But again, a great friend. He is actually the one that invited me sailing on his little Tartan 21. I think it's a Tartan 21 that he had here, and in 2010, I'll say, and for a few years I was sailing on his boat with him, and I was really, really getting into sailing, and hence why we went to the Grenadines. Anyway, so great. And then, of course, Dean Bowes, right here, right now, right there. He's been on my boat more than a few times. And yeah, part of my adventures. And of course, Mr. Rand, who taught me a lot about sailing too. That's him at his best there upstairs. That's on my deck. Pardon me? They released him, the Coast Guard did release him? They did. And of course, and then late Jack Vermonten right here, a famous racer from this club, and a long time colleague and friend of mine, joined me this year on a trip to Superior. And Tony Whitaker, he's at the back, and and his wife. Tony's been on a couple of trips with me, and his wife, beautiful wife Christine, joined us this year. Anyways, so that was kind of my crew over the years. The craft. So, yeah, then when I bought it, and I got it surveyed, I love the look of the Bayfield, and the surveyor, she's got solid bones, he said. So it was good. So that's what we bought. And so over the years, we've invested a bit in it. The instruments failed like 2 weeks after it was original instruments. 2 weeks after I'd bought the boat, I sailed the first year with no instruments. So we put an autopilot, solar panel, Dodger Bimini, and a full enclosure. That is a must on the Great Lakes for many reasons. New mainsail, Jenniker, new furler, redid the cockpit floor, fuel tank. We all know how it is, like boat. We all know what it means. Bring out another 1,000. But in my case, I spelled boat with 2 T's. Bring out another 10,000. We've been spending $10,000 a year for the first in upgrades for the first 6 years, and the last couple of years maybe a bit less, but still, but that's what it is. I don't have a good picture of her like that, but she is today. She's a beautiful boat, and I'm very lucky. We're very lucky in Bayfield. Shout out to Bayfield Marine Services, a family-owned operation. This building right now is a renovated building where the original Bayfields were done. So now it's a marine store and a shop. So the parents, Ron and Pat, and the son, Adam, is absolutely brilliant. A man that can do electronics, mechanics, fiberglass, though he hates it, he won't do it, but he could. He's done my cockpit. So a lot of these upgrades were done with his help, and maintenance. So I'm very lucky. We have great support, a great sailing community in Bayfield, and great people. So
why did you need a new bowsprit?
Why do I need a new bowsprit? Because it was getting rotted, and I had a survey done for the insurance, and he pointed it out. But that was a winter project. It was done in my basement. And I got to say, and that's good because Ron worked on Bayfields. He knows everything about Bayfields. And when I asked him, hey, what's the wood for the bowsprit? The top is teak, but the main piece is ash. So I reconstructed exactly the same. So, yeah. Because the bowsprit, there was you don't see it, but it's a big member, like it's about a 4, well, I know exactly, it's 4.5 by 4.5 piece of solid wood. and it's structural. So yeah, that was it. So now she's in good shape, and she looked great. We love our boat, and I've learned that I will fail way before the boat will fail, and it happened a couple of times. And now craft's good. The crews are great. The missions. So this is our place we've sailed through in the last, 7 years, 7 seasons, 8 seasons. Well, I took it I bought it in Galatea. First year we took it to Bayfield, and then my bucket list was done. But now that the boat is there, of course, I got to sail the Great Lakes. So yeah, I've done the Georgian Bay in North Channel multiple times. We went to Chicago in 2018 and back. Again, around Manitoulin Island many times, going the south part. And then this year, never did the Great Lake, the Superior. And this year, we did. And there's 4 people in this room that were on the boat with me, and plus there's a 5th one who's not here. And thanks to the help of my friend, we went from Bayfield, Ontario, to Bayfield, Wisconsin, right up there. And that was a great trip. The best summer vacation Christine Osgood had ever had in her life. She was being sarcastic when she said that. So my first lesson I learned, and I started sailing the Great Lake. And I apologize for the word, but it gets real fast. So I'll use, it was a bit tough for me to go through thousands of pictures of the last year and choose the ones, because there's been more than one time that weather crept up on me. This is like the first year. Again, I didn't know much, and the boat was not as equipped as it is today. That's at 2:00 in the afternoon, 2:15 in the afternoon on Lake Huron. Things are looking good. It's Spartacus. He's happy. That's the other side. Everything's looking good. That's about half an hour after. And then that's an hour and 15 minutes after. But at that point, anyways, we're too far from shore anyways. Doesn't matter. And I've learned over the years much better to be in the middle of the lake if there's a storm than close to the shore. So, but things got really bad. And again, you release the mainsail really quickly. You release the sail. We were on full sail. And again, not knowing too much, thanks to Spartacus, he was cranking that Yankee back in. And for and against the wind, and you never stopped. Must have taken about 4 minutes, and the thing was flapping in the wind. I thought it was, but there we are at 7:00 at night. We survived it. Was my first storm, and so that was a big lesson learned, that things happen really quickly. So I've been very much more careful since then, because. And then we got into this little marina late at night, and the next day, the lake was still quite agitated, to the point that this little entrance here, we couldn't get out, because the waves are 5-foot waves, and I would hit bottom on the way, try to get out, and then what happens then? Waves push you on those rocks. So we had to wait it out for a day. But the waiting game is something that I've also learned, and I'll talk a bit about it a bit more later. Now here's another thing. This is the time is not appearing, but this is about 10:30 in the morning. We're coming around this point in close to Alpena. I'll give you some perspective. So if you look at Lake Huron, we're going to Alpena. And that's where we are. And it's 10:30 in the morning, and the sky looks great. But I have no pictures of what happened after that, because again, shit got real. I wish I would have seen this picture before. So You know, to quote the wedding singer, information that would have been useful yesterday. Yeah, so this is exactly where we were at 10:30. And one of the locals said, they don't call it Thunder Bay for nothing. And there's a microclimate in there, and again, the storms come up all the time. And, you know, we don't know, we don't research all of that, but it doesn't mean one will happen that day, because I sailed that bay with Mark Rand a year or 2 years after, and it was like a breeze. We used a spinnaker to go in. So, but that day was bad. So this is 7 miles, yeah. And anyway, so thank God I had done a tack, because when the storm hit, if I had been like 5 minutes before, I was heading towards there, and then I tacked, which was at least not pushing me towards the shore. Again, it's much better to be in the middle of the lake if you're going to be in a storm than being close to shore. I was way too close, and I actually put the engine on and try to keep the boat into control and stay away from the shoal. Anyways, so at 2 o'clock we made it into the marina, and again, it was a bit of a trying experience. I mean, I'm not going to go, you know, but I mean, all the stats. I mean, Lake Erie is it's the shallowest lake, so it's the one that's the most deadliest. And that little bay, that Thunder Bay, there's 116 boats wrecked in that bay. But with the other thing I learned, though, as much as there can be heavy weather, there could be very calm days. Like this is like the dog days of summer, very, very calm. I mean, you encounter this. And sometimes, you know, you start sailing, it's beautiful, you get in the middle of the lake, and then that's what happened. And it's beautiful, but it's after a while just bobbing around, you go crazy. I remember one night, you know, with, Dean, I think you were there, we had a great sail out of Bayfield, and then like all night, ka-clink, ka-clink, you know, and you go nowhere. And then what do? I was probably exactly in the middle of the lake. And so at one point you just fire the engine up, because, I mean, it's just too much. At least the boat stops, you know, going back and forth, you maintain a bit of motion. So to say you're going to sail the Great Lakes, there's a lot of winds, and you're never going to motor, well, maybe, but you have better nerves than I do. Another lesson I learned: patience. I mean, it took me a while. I'm learning it slowly, but you know, one thing is for sure. So on the Great Lakes, like here in the Ottawa River, you guys know that the weather changes all the time. But you know, if it's not favorable, you just come to shore. But you're 5 hours from anything on the lake. I mean, and then the winds change. It will change. I tell you, like in a span of 8 hours, the winds will turn around. I mean, it's very rare that you can get on a tack. I mean, it does. We did. Jack, this summer, we were on the tack for 11 hours on the same tack. It happens. But most of the time, the wind will change or turn around, or significantly change direction or even intensity in a span of a few hours. And one thing that is 100% certain, the wind apps are not 100% accurate. And I have all of them. And you look at them and you're trying to find, okay, where does the Venn diagram, intersect? This is what, and even then, one thing is for sure though, when they go big like that, you know it's going to be big. Whether it's 30 knots or 40 knots, it doesn't matter. You stay off the water. So I've learned that, at least that they're directionally correct, right? They're directionally correct. So, but to think they're accurate, it's not. And plus, they go in span of a few hours, like every 3 hours. And like I said, things can change in the span of a few hours. And they say the wind is coming from north-northwest, but it's really coming from the west, or it's really coming from the north, or even from the northeast. I mean, so you got to be, so you got to plan for the worst, and sometimes you want to hope for the best, but you want to plan for the best, but you got to hope for the best, but plan for the worst. So, take your time. If the weather's not good, go and walk at the beach like Christine and Tony did. It helps when your wife is with you. Otherwise, do your laundry like we did. Do something. But don't go out there thinking it's going to get great, or go on the shadiest pub in Michigan, tour, or go see a baseball game. That's what we did in Chicago with Mark Rand there. Here you go. I mean, it's about our time. Wait, because if you don't, and sometimes you think, oh man, it's good enough. So, I don't know. There's no sound, eh? There's no sound? No.
Sorry, Luke.
It's okay. And I can't even play. It doesn't even play. Anyways, so we had been in Frankfort, Michigan we had waited out. We got there on a Saturday. It was a small craft advisory. Said, don't come out. The lake was pretty bad for a couple of days, from Saturday night, Sunday night. But it's Monday morning. This is about at 6 a.m. We're going. We're going. We've been waiting for so long. The wind is coming from the south, and we're going south. But, my app says the wind is coming from the southeast. Now, get on the lake, get going. And this is what the day is getting not much better. Oh, now it's playing. Okay. It's going. Let me see if I can get I would like to get the comments here. Oh, there you go. Oh, no, there's no sound. Okay, but I think the camera goes on Dean and Andrew. Look at the smile.
We're sailing away from Frankfurt.
We're very happy. We just left. Finally, we've been seeing
The crew's happy.
Look at the smile on that. Everybody's happy.
Did a good job, crew.
Look at Dean. Look at that big smile. Okay. So we're going. It's all good. That's about around noon. Okay. Yeah, that's at noon. And this one now. Look at Dean. Not too much smile.
So you're 13, 14 degrees in this
because he's been doing this. We've been beaten up in the waves for now about 11 hours. That's about, or maybe 10 hours. And finally, at 6 o'clock at night, we got where we wanted to be. Well, this is what we did. Now, I don't know. We're trying to. This was my sail plan. Very well done. So this is Lake Michigan, Frankfort at the top. We're going to go to Luntington on Monday, cross to Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Yeah, that's good. That's a great sail plan. And then go to Chicago. We've got to be in Chicago on Thursday because my wife and my daughter are meeting us there. And my daughter's right at the back there. Say hi. And so that's it. We have a sail plan. So we're trying to make it. And the red dot is where we made it after 12 hours of sailing. We did 21.3 miles of, Victor Make Good or whatever it is. And because we're trying to beat up the wind, we're nosing to the wind. So it would have been better just to stay there and just go the next day and sail because we had great winds the next day. But, we got all beaten up. We went for a beer. It was the one thing though, when you get beaten up, the beer tastes so good. So there's at least that as a redemption. And I remember, so we were, oh man, I still remember, I feel it. The three of us went and had a bite and ate. And then when we came back, Galatea was just there. And I always remember that because she was calm. It was like saying, hey, boats, what's wrong? What's wrong with you? And nothing. The boat can take it. It's us. I mean, that boat is designed for the Great Lakes, right? It's the Bayfield boatyard. They made the boats for the Great Lake. She's slow, but solid. She doesn't point as good as some other boats. And that's why maybe we have a bit of hard time making some headway. But she's a good boat. And so, my problem is that, it's not the boat, it's the crew, it's the captain. Well, having said that, though, when the weather gets good, be prepared to sail at night. And, it can be life-changing, and that's a quote from one of my friends who came with me and Tony, and we sailed from Manitoulin Island to Bayfield overnight, and it was kind of perfect conditions. And I mean, when it's, when it's nice, it's really nice. Like sailing at night, I mean, it's beautiful. And great conditions, it's more like it's even more memorable than sailing during the day. So yeah, you got to seize the moment. You got to go. It's time to go. We sail at night. That's great. But when the moon goes down, it gets dark. And but if the conditions are not bad, and you still feels good. But freighters at night are no sailor's delight. That's one thing we learned, and we learned the very hard way. So up to the trip to Chicago, I'd done a lot of Lake Huron. So do you guys? This is a marine traffic. This was taken today. These are the boats in the water today, around, right? And this is what typically I see on Lake Huron. And these are the shipping lanes are mainly on this side. And for most of the trips I've done, by the time before I went to Chicago, was mainly up around the North Channel and Georgian Bay, Tobermory many times. By the way, you guys you don't have to have a boat in the Great Lakes to sail the Great Lakes. I'm going to tell you right now. There's in Gore Bay, there's a charter company. You can rent a boat for a week and go sail, or 2 weeks, whatever, and sail the Great Lake, sail the North Channel. Anyways, so there's very little traffic, marine traffic. The shipping lanes are all coming from the U.S., going down through the Detroit here. So never was a problem. But one night, we left Beaver Island, which is that island, that piece right there. I don't know if my mouse will work on this. No, it doesn't work. And we're sailing to Frankfurt. And this is what we saw at night, because I had no reception. So I didn't see anything. But we started seeing something. And it was dark, and there was lights, and then we saw a red and a green light. And then, anyways, Dean was with me, and I'm going to let Dean describe his experience, because I think we're both suffering from PTSD, so I have a hard time talking about it.
I'm smiling again, by the way, even after that day getting brutally beaten up by Lake Michigan. Have you ever met somebody in the hallway, probably pre-COVID actually, where you kind of both go one way and then you kind of both go, well, we did that with a Great Lakes freighter at 2 in the morning in Lake Michigan. So coming out of Beaver Island, and Luc could tell probably a whole other session just on Beaver Island. That's quite a place. Sailing was pretty good. We were kind of motor sailing. It had got dark. Andrew and I were on ship. Luc was sleeping downstairs, and we started to see some lights off in the distance. And it was kind of hard to tell, because at nighttime, one of the things that's really hard is like because a lot about what we experience is, it's like what we see and hear and everything, but then it's the context around it. But at nighttime, you lose the context because you have no shoreline, you have nothing up close, you don't know. It's really hard to tell, is that something big far away or something small much closer. But anyways, the three of us came up on deck, and we were kind of monitoring the situation. Of course, like AIS wasn't working for us because we were relying on our cell phones, right? And that's
because I didn't have one at the time.
Not at the time.
I now have one.
Yeah. And AIS was good, and but even with the ones on the cell phone, we found like sometimes we would see boats that should be on AIS because of the size, but they just weren't coming through on the app.
Yeah, there was no reception where we were. That was the problem. You need reception when that.
You need reception. And then the other thing is, because we don't have AIS, they also can't see us on AIS, which is just as bad. They might have saw us on radar. But anyways, we're monitoring the situation. And, the lights are getting bigger, they're getting closer, but we still don't really know what we're dealing with. And it starts to get really close, and then we see like the green light and then the red light, and sometimes both of them at the same time, which we took as a bad sign.
Coming right at us.
Coming right at us. But we were in a narrow channel at the time, and there wasn't a lot of wind. We weren't moving very fast, so we started the engine so we could actually kind of try and avoid them. But even right up to the very last minute, it was very, very disorienting, I would say, Luke. It was really hard for us to tell what exactly was happening. And at one point in time, this big spotlight from about, 30, 40 feet up in the air shone on our boat, and then it shone down the river. And I think, Luke, you said, I think they're telling us where they're going to go so that we can avoid them.
Andrew said that, yeah.
It was Andrew, yeah.
And we got out of there.
And we got out of their way, but we were close enough at about 2 a.m. in the morning in pitch black that we could see the bow wave off this boat.
Yeah. And the thing is, the Great Lakers, they have most of the time the pilot house is at the back, but they're also the pilot house at the front. And in this case, when you get closer now, you see all the lights of the pilot house. It's like an apartment building is coming towards you. Yeah. So, but what was really deceiving on that boat is that the pilot house was at the front, but what scared them most is like, if I see this, where's the rest of the boat? How come it's not hitting me? But it was at the back. It was a pilot. Like when the captain went like this, right on us, it's like, don't move. I'm going that way. Oh,
yeah.
Now I was way too close.
It was way too close, but probably some lessons learned out of that I think Luke
get an AIS.
Get an AIS. We could have tried to hail them on the radio, which didn't come to mind at the time. Right? Yeah. That probably would have been a good step.
Oh, yeah.
And then also we're in a shipping channel, so there's actually lots of depth for us to get out of the channel, and we could have just sailed outside of the channel at the time.
Right.
And that would have been okay.
Right.
And afterwards, but the thing is, everybody was very calm through the whole thing. Nobody was panicking, nobody was freaked out. We were all calm. And afterwards, I was at the helm of the boat, and my whole body started to shake. I'm like, what's going on? What's wrong here? Like, oh yeah, that's probably just the pressure, the stress of the situation afterwards.
Yeah.
So then we went and spent a couple nice days in Frankfurt to avoid weather. That we didn't avoid.
We didn't avoid. We kind of avoid. Thank you, Jack. Anyways, you think the storms, but big ships in the middle of the night are, to me, it's probably the scariest thing. I mean, not knowing, it was, yeah. So, get an AIS. I mean, I have a radar. We have a radar, and all these things, but you think you're going to figure it out. But by the time you think, oh, I can't figure it out. It's almost too late. I'm not going to go turn on the radar now, and it's an old radar I got on the boat. That's probably an upgrade coming up, but anyways. And so another lesson I've learned, more so on this trip than the last trip than before, maintain a good pace. And pace here, and then that's my good old friend Tony, former helicopter pilot, has taught me, and I'm going to invite Tony to come and chat a bit. PACE stands for primary plan, alternate, contingency, and emergency. So do you remember, we haven't rehearsed this, but do you remember this, Tony? So, yeah. This year we're trying to sail from Rogers City to Harrisville. That's the west coast of Lake Huron. And Tony's, and over here is a weather forecast. This is Tuesday. This is the weather forecast for the next day. So we really want to get out of there, and we want to go down, at least make some progress, because, I need to get, that's the one thing is if you're going to be sailing the Great Lakes, if you're on a clock,
you're going to set yourself up for disaster. You're going to be disappointed. And by that time, though, we had lost a few days. I mean, we lost some days waiting out weather on Lake Superior. And it was getting close, and I needed to be back here for the long weekend, because the day after the long weekend, I was flying to Croatia with my wife, and that would have been like divorce if I didn't show up. So I was very motivated to make it there, and my crew were very supportive, Christine and Tony. So see how supportive he was? He said, okay, how do I sail heavy weather sailing? He's really trying to help me get there. Anyways, so that was the thing. But we did have a contingency plan. Tony and I got to say, I don't know, Tony, why you're not up here and I'm talking. But anyways, Tony and I think the same. Well, first of all, he taught me, so he's my teacher, so that's why I think the same way. But always, we are careful now more than I was 5-10 years ago. But I'm more careful now. Plan for the worst, hope for the best. And we had a plan. And so what happened at that point? We had made a decision. We went out that morning, and it was not great, but it was supposed to improve, and the winds were supposed to change direction and push us towards Arisville. And by around 10:30 or 11 o'clock, when we got to waypoint number 2, nothing had changed. The wind was still bad, and the storms were coming in. And so we decided to do the right thing, and we actually turned around. And you get no sound there. It's too bad that we don't get any sound, but oops. But
when I was in high
this
school,
is us turning around, and
I read a book.
And while I'm telling the story, there is
That's the
I'm
guy
saying
was going to jump over
in
a
high
cliff,
school I
and
read a
then
book,
He turned around
a short story, and it was
in
about
front of the whole high school crowd,
this
and he didn't do
teenager
it.
in
even
high
though that was
school
his plan.
that was a great diver, and he
And showed
said that he was going
maturity
to
in
go dive
growing
off
up.
this high
So
cliff that
Tony,
nobody
Kristen,
had
and I
done
showed maturity and
on
we grew
Friday
up today.
night, and the
We
whole
turned
high
around
school kids were
because the winds are crazy
gathered
in our face.
to
These are
watch
not
him
very
go
good
jump.
conditions, as you can see.
And
So we turned
and then
around.
he had all this
Going
pressure
back
to
there.
go and do what he said he was going to do. And then he
I'm going to stop
backed
filming
out.
now and maybe drive the boat.
did succumb to the pressure and showed maturity in growing up. And
'Cause,
that's what I was saying.
it's one of
we
those
showed
days where
maturity
even
and,
Stanley's
and we
having a
grew
hard
up
time.
that day because we actually turned around. And if you look at the wind indicator, we're like, now we're past the storm, but we're still like in 27 to 25 to 27 knot winds, but we're going back, not upwind. Tony, you want to add anything to this? Yeah.
This mic's on here?
Yeah.
Thanks, Luke. Yeah, I mean, my background is military, specifically tactical helicopters, so some basic understanding of weather and machinery and how things can go bad and navigation and stuff. And so I started sailing with these guys a couple of years ago. We sailed in the Caribbean and the lake, and I'd show up with fairly good navigation plans and fairly good idea of what we're doing. Closer? Fairly good idea of what I thought we could do and what we might do. The pace thing we were talking about before is the idea when you're planning your trip. Sure, everyone's always looking at, well, what's the primary place I'm going to? What's my next location? They put a lot of thought into that. They draw a line on a map, and they think about and they talk to the place they're going. But they don't necessarily always think too much detail about what's possibly going to happen, what could possibly go wrong, what's my backup plan, right? So what's my alternative plan? Military thing, you're always doing that. And you're not paying lip service to it. You're actually doing it. You're thinking through all the steps that could possibly go wrong. Because it's not just the weather and the aircraft trying to kill you. There are other people trying to kill you at the same time. So a lot of things are outside of your control. So it's not just about paying lip service to that. You actually really have to look and go, well, what are the alternatives? What would actually happen? What could possibly go? So the day we're talking here, we looked at it and we said, okay, the weather's supposed to calm down by this point. It's supposed to do this. What's our alternative plan? Well, we can back up and we go back to, I forget the name of the place. Presqu'île. We can go back to Presqu'île. Luc was saying, well, if we come around that corner, we're going to go to Alpena. We've got to pile into the wind going in Alpena. That's not good. We don't want to do that. So we're looking at that. We had a boat in front of us we talked to, a power boat, so we could track them on AIS. So we knew what their plan was, what they were going to do. So we could see what they were going to do as they started to go across the bay. We had the radar up, and we'd already gone through the mental math of, okay, well, if it doesn't get better at this point, it's not getting better, so we're going to turn around and go back. There's no shame in going back. You just turn around and start heading back. So that's the alternate. Go back to this little harbor. Same time, we had some contingency plans. There was some, container or bulk cargo ports there where there's no place to tie up necessarily, but at least you can go and hide in there. And then you think about, well, what's the emergency plan? Heave to or call the Coast Guard. And you've already thought about that. You've looked up who you're going to call. You've looked up what the situation is. So when the wind is blowing at 27 knots and you're trying to turn a boat and it's a mess and stuff's going everywhere, you're not trying to go through the mental math of what that means. You've already thought it through. And you're already ready to say, okay, I've already made that decision. So when it happens, you're already in a good position to do that. I'll take it back to the last part of the story. When I did my training, you fly jets in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. And there's a certain time zone when you're doing takeoffs in the jet that you reach a point so far down the runway that you can't get the jet stopped anymore. And there's a pace up to about 1,000 feet where if the engine fails inside that window, there is absolutely nothing you can do other than eject from the aircraft. That's it. And this, you sort of tell yourself, the instructor will tell you, the decision to eject from that aircraft between that point and between 2/3 of the way down the runway and 1,000 feet in the air is done before you ever get in the aircraft. You don't even think about it. If it happens, it happens. You just give the aircraft back to the taxpayers and you're gone. And it's those kinds of things that you have to think about. You don't want to be trying to problem solve when you don't need to be. Think it through beforehand and don't pay lip service to it. Be serious about doing what you're doing. That's it. My thoughts.
Thank you very much, Tony. Yeah, really appreciate it. I mean, I learned a lot from the crew. I mean, that I could have used that 4 or 5 years before, but it's okay. I mean, so the time is getting, time is going by fast, and I want to give Jack a chance also to talk a bit. This is when we didn't do a good plan. I didn't have a plan. Again, change crew in Sault Ste. Marie. Peter came on board, and Peter, I said before, I mean, him and I go a long ways. A bit of a whack job. We tend to have too much fun, and anyways, we just look at the wind, and it looks like we have good wind. Dean is just flying home from Sault Ste. Marie. Peter came on. There's about 2 hours here. From here to there's only 26 miles. Figure we're going to be like here around 8:30 at night. So the winds are good. We're going to get to what we're going to sail overnight. Shipping channels are here, but I have an AIS now, so I'm good. So we're going to go, and the winds are favorable to kind of get us there in one tack, but they're not very strong. It's okay as long as we get there by early morning, because the next day, again, it's going to be the apps are predicting strong winds from the northwest, really strong. It's completely opposite. So at least let's get to Whitefish Point, and be there, and we'll have at least made that leg. So that's all good. So we're expecting 10 knots of wind. I'm thinking it's going to take me about 7 hours, 8 hours. Be conservative again. And even if it's a bit slower, we can. If we get there before daybreak, which is at that time, it's around 5:30. You can see enough to do probably anything. If we get there before 5:30 a.m., we can always slow it down. But again, what I did not anticipate, and I should have. Tony was not on the boat. Is that again, winds were starting to pick up. And it did not look very good. We just got on Lake Superior, and it's not friendly looking. And and what's happened worse after that is that the wind just got stronger and stronger. So we had too much of a good thing, to the point that we got to the entrance of and that's this from the Navionics app. This is what the marina looks like at Whitefish. And so at that point, we're now going to scoot right by it at 1 in the morning. It's like we're flying. I have nothing, and we just have a small jib. The mainsail's not doing anything, and we're still doing 6 knots. 25, 28 knots of wind coming right at it. It's supposed to be 10. So, again, anyway, so I'm sure, we thought about it. If I go around the corner, the other place we can get to is 50 miles. But the boat can get in the refuge. I have 50 miles to do. And by that time, I'm saying, if I keep going, again, the wind's going to change. We know it's going to happen. So, what do I do? Again, should I practice hove to? And meanwhile, I didn't. We hadn't. And we're tired there. It's 1 a.m. Peter had been sleeping a bit. He came on deck, and I show him that picture. I said, I think we can maneuver in there. And he agreed. And at that time, Jack, had been up with me, but at night, I tell you, avoid sailing at night, even if, sailing at night, even if the wind is in your direction, it's very hard when the water's rough. It's so hard. You don't see anything. You're constantly, and the waves look bigger. The wind sounds stronger. Like 20 knots during the day versus 20 knots at night. It's it's because you don't have the senses. Back to what Dean was saying. It's so hard on the body, and then you get tired and you don't make wise decisions. And instead of maybe trying to try to hove to, we said, okay, let's go in. And we did. We went in it's pitch dark, and all you see is that red light flashing, and you think the red light is right there, but meanwhile it's over there. But then I'm looking at it's like flying IFR like an airplane, but you're not. And you're trying to go in here. And sure enough, we hit bottom. And so yeah, bad plan. But the winds, the good news that the wave were strong enough that they lifted the boat, and it was like if somebody take the barbells and then boom, boom, pushing him, boom. And we finally got free, and we went along this, and then I floored it. You see the sand there anyways. So went around, and I couldn't see. I had Peter on the deck, and Jack had a flashlight on the port side, and Peter and we actually managed to get in unscathed, except for a bit of embarrassed to hit the bottom. But this is what the marina looked like. It was not at all. This is inside the marina. It's a bit of a refuge, not a marina. Yeah, refuge. It's a refuge. It's exactly a refuge. And so when we came in, the winds were so strong, we couldn't. The boat was being pushed right into the docks, and I couldn't put on reverse enough to fight the wind, even on poles, right? So I turned the boat around, and we tried to tie up to that break wall, and we did, but the boat came to an abrupt stop, and I'm pretty good at judging the boat, and I could not believe I hit the wall. But I did not hit the wall. Anyways, the boat did stop, and then we kind of tied it temporarily, and then finally took us about an hour. We backed it manually in there, and the water was breaking over that break wall. I couldn't even leave the boat there anyways. We were getting so splashed on, the water was breaking over. Anyways, we put the boat there. This is in the morning. It looks very friendly. But, so what had happened? The problem happened 12 hours before almost. When we went in Sault Ste. Marie to replenish and get Peter on the boat and Dean off, they put us in a small marina, and the anchor, the anchor was, my bowsprit was right over the docks where the people walk. So I removed my anchor temporarily. I forgot to put it back in the saddle. So the anchor had been dragging all night, one of the anchors. And so what happened so I zoomed in. If you look at here, this piece sticking out, well, the chain of the anchor got caught in there. And then the boat came to an abrupt stop, and of course it broke one of the cables around the plate, the bowsprit, so we had damage. And I was not having a good plan. That's what happened. We were so discouraged, we thought the trip was over because that's structural. But, you know, we persevered, we repaired it, we drilled, put a shackle, off we went. But all that to say, you know, we need spare parts, a lot more spare parts. I think we need a lot of, you guys all know that, but I feel like we always underestimate the trouble we're going to get in, including, you know, sails damaged. You need tools. I'm repairing there. And if you don't have the spare parts, you got to fabricate some shit to make it work. And that broke a block. Or the nice thing is we have a lot of time. You can actually, we made some slides for the sail that got broken on this trip. And it's this, again, a stupid jibe. I mean, again, I feel embarrassed. I bet you all sailors here, how can you break slides in a jibe? But we did. And I still don't quite know if it was maybe under design or my inability as a sailor. But all I have to say, I mean, the good thing is we fabricated some, and look at them. We got our sail back up. I think we had 6 slides broke, and we made some. Anyways, and I'll go quick. Thank God for the Coast Guard. That I learned. First thing, going up the Welland Canal in 2015. You know, it's something you have to do once in your life, probably, or not more than once anyways. You don't even have to do it. But anyways, here we are waiting, looking at these things go by. You know, that's what we're doing. Couldn't get in because they have priority until this guy showed up, the Coast Guard. And they have priority, and they're small enough. So off we went with them. Thank God for them. Here we are in the Welland Canal, going up with the Coast Guard at the back. I mean, there's 3 pictures. This is incredible. It's an experience. Don't necessarily need to live it again. Look how close the spreaders are to the wall of the canal. Anyways, but thank God the Coast Guard would still be waiting there if they hadn't showed up. I feel like we have no priority. So that's one good intervention for the Coast Guards. Here's another time when we went to the Duck Islands. The Duck Islands are right under the Manitoulin Island. Anybody has been there? You guys have sailed in Lake Huron. You've been to the Duck Islands? No? Anyways, so we went. We needed to go there. I mean, I'm intrigued by it. There's a nice, lighthouse. It was operational till the 70s, with somebody living there. It's one of the most recent lighthouse to be mechanized in Ontario. Anyways, we went there, had a great day, went to the island. Apparently there's a shipwreck, according to the charts, and it's visible, and I couldn't see it. I went on the island, and then I saw this. Oh, okay, well, obviously Duck Islands has a lot of duck prints, but I saw this thing. Oh, that's the shipwreck. I don't know why the chart says it, but anyways, couldn't see the shipwreck. It was a beautiful night. And we stayed there because the next day we had to take off really early because the winds were supposed to be favorable to get us back down Lake Huron to Bayfield. So this is at 5 a.m. We're taking off. It's beautiful. Look, it's almost day. So off we go, and we're motoring out of this is Great Duck Island, and this is Outer Island. We're just going right back down south. And then all of a sudden the boat stops. And Andrew says, "What's going on?" And I said, "I think I found the wreck." So here's the wreck. And in 2019, the water level of the Great Lakes was about 3.5 feet above datum, more than normal. And that thing that's normally exposed partially was completely submerged. And so I never saw it the night before. And the Navionics app has it about 200 feet closer to the shore, quote unquote, than what it should be. And I wrote that. But that's what it looked like on the port side and on the starboard side. So of course we tried to get the boat out by going to shore and tying a line to a tree and using the winch to try to pull us out. but you got to be kidding me, you know? Like this is what, the boat was 6 inches above water. Look at it. There's no way. So I called Cito, as my bad service, and the Cito person from in Lionhead says, hey, again, I'm stuck here, blah, blah. Well, it's going to cost you about $5,000. It's okay. I have a $100,000 boat. I'm not going to leave here and just go take the dinghy to shore and call Uber. It's like, there's not even Uber. Okay, well, let me. And then she calls back and says, no, we're not going to go. You're not going to go. All right. So pan. Yeah. Coast Guard answers. And sure enough, 4 hours later, they show up. Cape Commodore came from Lion's Head and came and pulled us out. And I didn't pay a penny. Thank you, taxpayers. But they did ask for my name, and I thought I was going to get a bill, and I would be very happy to pay for, at least for the gas, for the, but never got a bill. Thank God for them. That was Galatea has a full keel, so she just had a bit of scratch on her belly. Not even on her, it was all fixed. That was the damage of it. So that's that. Anyways, now I'm going to give it to Jack to talk a little bit. Jack's a racer. He came he came from Bayfield to Bayfield with me, and he's going to give you his perspective.
What were you hitting the mouse here? How do you move it
You
forward?
roll down. You take this guy.
All right.
You roll that way.
Well, anyways, Luke asked Dean and Tony and I to give us our thoughts. I guess I was the only one that took it seriously. You guys sort of just said, all right. But anyways, so I thought I'd share a couple of things. It was actually 3 things, but there's probably more that'll get included here in terms of what I learned. My background is when we were younger, we used to sail a bit, coincidentally, out of Bayfield, Ontario. So when Luke said, hey, I'm sailing from Bayfield to Bayfield, I'd never done. I'm not as adventuresome as him, so I said, well, sure, love to do that. But I'd never cruised before, never overnighted, nothing like that. So this picture doesn't do it justice, but this was our first day. So I'd probably say lesson 0 is don't leave Ottawa at midnight and drive all night to get to Bayfield at 6 o'clock in the morning. Probably not the best start to the day. So Dean and I looked a little bit like this. Our first morning, it was wavy. It's not by any means the Ottawa River. We got a little sick, but that's okay. But, Luke managed to get us into Kincardine. We were supposed to go all the way to the Duck Islands, another one of these, we're going to go all this way, we're going to go overnight, go all the way up to the Duck Islands, and what was it, 30 kilometers later, we stopped in Kincardine. But, for me, it was like I'm used to racing, used to, you're not going very far, so you got to find something you can do, something that's productive. Well, since I was throwing up all the time and wasn't used to the waves, I couldn't go, said, well, I'm not going down to the cabin, that's not very fun, so couldn't do anything like cooking or whatnot. So then I tried my hand at barbecuing. Managed to burn my hand, which, didn't really recover for about 2 weeks. But, as part of that, in trying to cure my ailments here, I discovered ice. And I said, one thing that we really got to do, and if you're going to do one thing, do it right, because I made a point of making sure that we always had the coldest beer that you could possibly have.
And that is true.
We rotated that ice through those
I've been
coolers.
on many adventures, but never did anybody had a beer cooling system like he had. He's got a process.
So
It keeps the water oh man, I don't want to go through it. But if you want to know, it's a 7-step process.
I'm going to write a book on it, and it's important. This was our first night on Lake Superior, the infamous Whitefish Point. Anyway, so that was my first lesson. Find something to do, make sure you do it right. So hopefully we all had cold beer. So the next thing I learned was, you use your instruments to navigate, but, you should also maybe use your instincts a little bit and not really rely on the GPS too much. I started having tunnel vision using this GPS. But anyways, to make the long story short, this was one day where I think we spent, like Luke said, I think we spent 14 hours on one tack on Lake Superior, just straight ahead, going exactly where we wanted to go. And near the end of it, we went into this, there's a little inlet. I don't know if you know Lake Superior, but there's a fin there and there's a cut through there. And we discovered during our trip that, we can take this shortcut through this cut. So kept the sails up. I said, yeah, I'll keep going. I looked down at the GPS. Of course, this wasn't where we were, but I couldn't quite find the coordinates. But I was looking at that GPS like tunnel vision. So you hear these stories about people looking at their GPS and driving their car into the water. Well, sure enough, I'm looking at this GPS. If you go back and look at it, I didn't notice that we weren't really, the GPS is here. You have to keep moving it all the time. You flick it up to make sure that your boat's in the center. Well, I didn't notice that. Luke was down changing, comes back up. He's like, first thing he looks at is the depth sounder. Holy shit, we're in like 6 feet of water. And sure enough, I end up beaching the boat. Now, luckily, we didn't have to call the Coast Guard. Well, and when I say we, it was me. Luke, like a good executive or a captain, said, yeah, it's a team effort. 100% my fault. Luckily, I happened to have $100 US. Some nice guy came by, gave him the $100, and we ended up having a good story out of it anyways. But yeah, $100 short, US mind you. And luckily, no harm, no foul. It was sand, thank God. So that was kind of my second lesson. GPS is one thing, but look at your depth sounder, look at the rest of your instruments. Maybe look around a little bit as opposed to just looking at a screen. We look at screens enough as it is. And then maybe my last little lesson here was, it's really the journey, not the destination. So like I said, my background is, when I was younger, I sailed. Way back, I used to sail at Sail RA, so I used to sail albacores and lasers, and it was all the time sort of racing. And then the last 8 years, been sailing with my brother in a 10s or 22. So, kind of the experience is show up. Usually you get a text from Frank saying, yeah, I'm running late. Basically start the motor, he jumps on, and away we go. We do our little race, come back, and that's kind of the end of it. So every time for the first, 13 days, all I wanted to do was keep sailing, and I was like, we got to keep going. I don't know why. But, I just felt like we had to do something. But anyways, finally on the second last night, again, we'd had a great day. I think another day where we had we sailed probably 14, 15 hours, almost all on one tack. And I wanted to keep going. I'm like, let's just keep going. I want to go. And Luke's like, no. It's going to be windy. It's going to be stormy. For whatever reason, I didn't learn my lesson on Whitefish Point. And I said, no, we want to keep going. So, that's kind of what things would have looked like. But instead, luckily listened to Luke. And, sure enough, probably had one of our most relaxing nights. We took the dinghy out for the first time, did a little bit of exploring, went to a campground, got some extra ice so we could keep the beer cold. You know, we managed to get some nice pictures of Galatea, and, you know, had a great dinner, nice and relaxing, had a great sleep, and then we were all refreshed for the next day. But yeah, you know, the big thing is you got to enjoy your time, and yeah, you'll get there eventually. We managed to get there, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. So it was, for me, it was very different than anything that I'd ever done before, and it was a fun time. So that was my experience. Thanks, Luke.
You're very welcome. Yeah, so the Great Lakes allowed me to go places and make friends. I mean, especially like it's very bonding. You know, when you're 2 weeks, you better like the person. When you're a week or two on the boat, but you know, you become you make friendships forever. You know, and along the way we go places. I mean, it's nice. The Great Lakes, you know, Toronto, sail by Detroit. Here's the Three Stooges in Milwaukee. This is like, in Milwaukee, we came in, there was a basin in front of the city, like we paid by the minute. We went, we parked the boat, we went for a beer at a Journeyman Hotel, and we waited for the winds. That's a good way to wait. And the winds came up at around 8 o'clock at night, and we sailed into Chicago the next day. There you go, this is Chicago. Yeah, this is the Dean taking the boat in. It's beautiful. You sail into Chicago. I mean, you gotta, you know, and my daughter was there to welcome us. We got there right on time. I mean, I could talk so many, and I mean, it's quarter to, there's so many stories. I'll stop there, and I'm going to say, for me, but you know what, the summary of what I'm saying here today is that embrace opportunities, however small they may be. That invitation to go sail in Bayfield on that Saturday in 1986 kind of changed the course of my life in a way, you know, for the better forever. And then, you know, throw yourself out there, which is what I did, which I'm doing, because, I mean, and don't be afraid to make mistakes, or don't be afraid to be afraid. I'm afraid all the freaking time. It's never I leave the boat, like we go, and I say, well, I'm always, and that's good. I'm careful a bit more than I would otherwise be. I've learned that more, the third bullet, more now than before. I should have done that, but I do plan more for the worst now than I used to, and that's a good thing, and I hope for the best, not the other way around. And I count my blessings, and I love life, and that all that put together, I mean, that's giving me and my friends and us together a great experience. I mean, I showed a lot of bad stuff here, like, you know, of course, you learn, you know, you don't have lessons on sailing like this. This is not, you don't learn anything. It's just, this is beautiful though. This is what you sail for, you know, and there's so many pictures. I went through thousands of pictures to prepare for this talk, but it's so beautiful, and I invite you to go and just experience it. Like I said, Canadian Yacht Charters in Manitoulin Island, on the Gore Bay, Manitoulin Island. Anyways, I would have again, this is kind of not working out so good. This video, I mean, there's no music, but if you hear the sound, this kind of expresses how I feel. I mean, the music is great. This is a video that I found. I didn't even know it existed. My buddy showed me about 4 years ago. But that kind of says it all. That's how much fun I had, and thank you very much for listening to my talk. And if you have a question as well, I'll be happy to answer.
Sailors who aren't on the trip that support on all these journeys, right? By checking weather forecasts.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Some if you're not, all these guys, the tribute, the crew, if they're not with me on the boat, most of them are with me in spirit, and not only that, they're checking things online, because sometimes I don't have contact, Even Peter even organized for us to have a satellite phone on our trip to Superior because, you know, we knew we were going to be out of contact maybe for long periods of time, though it did not happen. But anyways, all that to say, we get a lot of support from people on the ground. Yeah. Yeah.
Question I should ask you, how many Bayfield 36s are out there?
See, I should know because I'm supposed to know everything about the Bayfields, but I don't. I'd say about 90. You can go on Wikipedia and check our on. Yeah.
So logistically, what's it like living in Ottawa and keeping your boat?
Yeah. Well, I have the benefit of being retired, number one. Number two, but I was not always retired. But when I was working for the federal government, on Friday afternoon, I would try to get all conference calls, and take them from the car while driving, and my wife was driving, you know, especially since 2017, 18, she was the one driving, and I was on Friday afternoons, and she also has her own business, so she's done on Thursday. She doesn't work Fridays. So the last 5 years, and we make long weekends, 1 or 2 a month, probably, you know. And then I do one trip like a year of a week or 2 or 3. This time was 4. You know, we got to go back to Superior. I don't know if you looked at the picture, but we really missed it. Like the weather was not great, the winds were not great, so we're great going there, but back not. I wanted to go do the North Shore. We want to do North Shore, but we'll have to go back and do that. But yeah, so you know, for the amount of money we spend in the boat a year, just the mooring and all that, you gotta do this, right? You rent a boat for a week, and I've rented in the Mediterranean like 4 times now, in the Caribbean. You know, it's about $6,000-7,000 a week. So when I took 3-4 weeks on my boat, yeah, it's be $20,000 if I would rent the boat, right? So it kind of justify the 15 I just put in. So you know, it's an expensive hobby, but it's priceless. You know, if you can afford it. Yeah. But I don't mind the drive. I mean, yeah.
Any final questions for Luc and the guys? You know, the sport could be called adversity, I think. And
Yeah.
you know, if this scares you, it's probably in the wrong way scare. It's the wrong sport. But I think for a lot of us, we're ready to get out there and do it again.
Do it.
And Luc, what a fantastic talk tonight. Thank you so much. It was
You're
just
really
terrific. Let's hear it again for Luc. We've got just some gifts for you guys. Thank you so much.